Among the biggest European clubs, PSG are arguably the main provider of market transfer news, both actual and potential, this summer so far, keeping Kylian Mbappé in their ranks after a protracted and well-chronicled saga. The champions of France are currently in the process of remodeling, and recent interview of Nasser Al-Khelaifi is a good testimony of it. The president of PSG issued a strong and clear message, which indicates that the club is radically modifying their philosophy and working approach. The dismissal of sporting director Leonardo and imminent sacking of Mauricio Pochettino, the team's head coach, are major parts of the big overhaul. It should be noted that the job of both South Americans wasn't exactly bad. It rather should be labeled as not successful enough. During his 3-year stint at the Parc des Princes, the imposing Leonardo, for instance, done a lot of decent things. Let's not forget that in 2020 and 2021, the club got their two best results in the Champions League in the modern era, with the active involvement of the Brazilian. On the other hand, the lion's share of his transfers proved to be inefficient and pretty costly. Using his substantial political weight and numerous connections within the agent's world, Leonardo preferred to get players with expired contracts, but it didn't work at all. Lionel Messi spent in the French capital in every respect one of the worst seasons in his illustrious career. Jorginho Wijnaldum even didn't manage to become a starter, and the beleaguered Sergio Ramos missed basically all the meaningful games through injuries. As for Gianluigi Donnarumma, the level of his performances also didn't strike imagination, although the young Italian definitely has some time in order to express himself in the positive way. We can add to this line of names Mauro Icardi, whose lavish contract and lack of productivity became a burden for PSG a long time ago. It's significant that Leonardo has been replaced with Luis Campos, the man who is renowned for his ability to build the competitive squads without spending a ton of money, and has a knack for discovering brand new talents. In the not distant past, the Portuguese, who technically would be named football advisor at the Parc des Princes, twice assembled the teams working at AS Monaco and Lille that eventually won the Ligue 1, beating the mighty PSG, albeit in both cases it happened right after his departure. Speaking about Pochettino, whose pending dismissal is perhaps the worst kept secret in the world, you got to admit, critics insisting that his period in Paris was a failure are too harsh. The truth is that the Argentine has done a decent job, both in terms of results and quality of play. Over a season and a half, he won all the domestic competitions. The problem is that the Ligue 1 title that slipped out of his grasp last year is remembered the most. Likewise, Pochettino installed a good-looking combinational and intelligent style of play, even if we should bear in mind that he received a pretty solid inheritance in this sense from Thomas Tuchel, who abruptly parted ways with PSG. But in the crucial moments of campaigns, this construction proved to be lightweight and fragile. During his quite brief tenure in the French capital, Mauricio built up a collection of several prestigious wins over Barcelona, Bayern, Manchester City and Real in the individual games, but it were the ultimate eliminations that entrenched in the memory. The spring match at the Santiago Bernabeu in particular, when PSG once again became the victim of their brittle psychology and left the competition been a far superior side over at least 150 minutes out of 180 that lasted the tie. After that, Pochettino's fate has been effectively sealed. It's curious that in search of new head coach, PSG, in the form of their leading board, opted for a completely new dimension, apparently trying to find a specialist who works in a pragmatic, Italian manner. Barring fleeting and seemingly unsuccessful negotiations with Zinedine Zidane, whose absolute priority is the French national team, the Parisians considered, at least on the level of rumors, the likes of Jose Mourinho, Antonio Conte, Massimiliano Allegri, and even Thiago Motta, who was a part of the club as a footballer about a decade ago, but eventually chose Christophe Galtier, Nice's current head coach. Galtier, who previously worked with Campos at Lille and won the French championship there last year, has a reputation of defensively oriented specialist who is capable to mold well-drilled, disciplined, resilient and combative sides. It would be fair to say that his style of work and vision of football are similar to Aimé Jacquet, Claude Puel, Raymond Domenech, his best version, and Didier Deschamps. Galtier is hard-working, firm and not a nonsense type of man, the qualities that perfectly fit the new PSG's policy, the apparent aim of which is to make the team more focused and much less glamorous. At first, Galtier, whose contract with Nice is valid for 2 more seasons, but could be terminated for about 10 million euros, or even for the lesser sum, as fresh reports indicate, should take care of the team's pure playing problems though. The big, almost catastrophic lack of movement and stamina is the main and most obvious of them. In some Champions League matches, PSG even desperately struggled to reach 100 kilometers distance covered. At the time being, the Parisians are the most static top side in Europe. After Messi's sudden departure from Barcelona, there is simply no competition left, and the reason behind it is transparent. The Argentine is wearing PSG shirt now, but there is another factor, the hidden one. Most of the fans would be infinitely surprised, but in terms of average distance covered per 90 minutes, Mbappé, despite his exuberance and youth, is only marginally ahead of Leo. Through this pair, both of them prefer to conserve energy in order to fully vent and exploit it. In several crunch episodes, the team stably loses around 6-7 kilometers per game in relation to almost every adversary, and it's a huge deficit. It's also curious that Neymar, despite his permanent fitness problems and idle lifestyle, is the most agile player in this trio. The Brazilian runs about 10.5 kilometers per match, but his defensive output is as poor and meager as is in the cases of Mbappé and Messi. This puts PSG as a team under tremendous pressure without the ball, especially if we recall that the current Parisian midfield is rather soft and courteous. Therefore, it would be right to presume that the very first thing Galtier will do as the club head coach is get at least a pair of genuine defensive midfielders. Renato Sanchez and Ferran Thuram are the most likely candidates, but the full list is much wider. The other, perhaps even more promising way of rectifying the problem is changing of tactical alignment from the familiar 4-3-3 to 4-4-2 in their modern reading, with effective 4 central midfielders and active fullbacks. The Parisians already have them in Achraf Hakimi on the right and Nuno Mendes on the left. In this scenario, Neymar undoubtedly would be sacrificed, and it appears that the PSG board is leaning towards this decision. There is an issue though. It would be hard to find an appropriate buyer for the unreliable Brazilian, whose bad habits, careless behavior, and luxurious contract deter most of the potential suitors. On top of that, the South American himself is not keen to leave Paris, where he settled very well in social terms. So the reasons behind the idea of bringing Galtier to PSG are pretty much understandable. The plan is to address the weaknesses with his help and make the team tougher mentally, more agile and focused, and also improve it defensively. In all these aspects, the incumbent Nice head coach is pretty strong. Moreover, within the bounds of the upcoming season, with tight, almost congested fixture with a little space to rest, Galtier's craft of physical preparation should be particularly important and useful. At the same time, his European record, which is basically limited to several early knockout stage Europa League eliminations, cast doubts about Christophe's ability to instantly propel PSG to Champions League heights, especially if we recall that managers with a predominantly pragmatic attitude and style of work didn't reach even semi-final of this competition since 2017. Besides that, the ever-tense Galtier had never worked with legitimate star players and hence didn't restrain their enormous egos and ambitions. These are pretty serious obstacles, and in order to overcome them, the Frenchman must do the work of his life when and if he will be confirmed in the role of PSG manager somewhere in the early July.